Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
What up, what up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is the TCMMA podcast. We are live for the first time in a while. At least for the regular podcast. I mean, if you want to call the watch party a regular podcast, which we label it that way, we're live every Saturday night. But doing the regular podcast during the week, we haven't been live in a while, so we're glad to be live, and we got a bunch of topics to get into today, that's for sure, because the UFC world, MMA world as a whole is buzzing today. Everybody wants to know what's up with McGregor. Remember yesterday, the UFC 303 press conference got canceled, so there's all types of speculation. No one has an answer, but we'll tell you what's being said. So former UFC champ offers worrisome outlook for the return of Conor McGregor. Brace yourself for disappointment. Who said that? We'll get into that in a moment. Also, in terms of the UFC rankings, skidding Paulo Costa slips to number 8 following Sean Strickland's loss at UFC 302. Also, Khamzat Chimaev gets a hiccup for title shot opportunity as Sean Strickland remains number 1 in the middleweight rankings list. So obviously the middleweight is at the top of the ladder as far as discussion in terms of the rankings, because you have a middleweight co-main event last week. You got a middleweight main event this week with Jared Cannonier and Nazardine Mavov. Then you got Hamza versus Robert Whittaker the week after. So, or right around the corner. So you got all that going on. Also, Dana White teases that the UFC is working on a BMF fight for Max Holloway. So who would that fight be? What would that look like? Right? And we got a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the BMF belt. Like, will it eventually, if a champion gets a hold of the BMF belt, it can never really go backwards, I don't think. So we're going to talk our way through that, which leads me to believe that the UFC will never put a champion in for a fight for the BMF belt. So I'm talking about this, but I haven't processed it yet. So I will process that live when we circle back to this topic for sure. But that's just some of the things going on in the UFC, and you never know. As the show goes on, some other news may break. But these are the main issues going on. Sometimes we got 7 to 10 topics, and sometimes we got 3 big ones. Today we got 3 big ones. So getting back to Conor McGregor. Former UFC champ offers worrisome outlook for the return of Conor McGregor. Brace yourself for disappointment. That's Daniel Cormier, DC Daniel Cormier on the Good Guy, Bad Guy podcast or show with Chael Sonnen. He said just yesterday, start to brace yourself a little bit for disappointment, Cormier told Chael Sonnen. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. Let me tell you something about the UFC. Dana White will argue and scream at the media. He will give the media a hard time. Dana White has no problem letting the media down. You know who Dana White doesn't like letting down? The fans. And I think that's fair to say by Cormier. That's for sure. He tries to over-deliver for fans. To me, it feels like this is a big deal, right? The cancellation of the press conference yesterday in Dublin, Ireland. Like, they're going to have a press conference for McGregor in Ireland. The fact that that's canceled right now is very concerning. He goes on to say, we are all guessing, right? And I told you that yesterday. There's a lot of speculation going around. But can I ask you this? Does there come a point where an athlete gets in camp and goes, I really don't know if I want to deal with any of this? And ultimately does that attitude roll over to fight week and go, I don't need this anymore. I don't really want to fight. I don't have to. And I see where DC is going with this, but I don't necessarily agree that Conor McGregor doesn't have the attitude towards he wants to fight. Is he totally hungry like he once was? No. But is he still an elite fighter? Yes. And does he still want to fight? I say absolutely. He wants to fight. So I don't think it's any of that. Now, well, before we get into what people are speculating today, let's talk about what McGregor said on X. So I first of all, I understand what Daniel Cormier is saying. Prepare yourself for disappointment, for sure. When it comes to McGregor, we don't know what to expect in these, later years of his career. And he's got all the money. And I'm a huge McGregor fan, okay? But we don't know what to expect. McGregor said on X today, and I quote, "In consultation with the UFC, today's press conference was canceled due to a series of obstacles outside of our control. I apologize to my Irish fans and fans around the world for the inconvenience and appreciate all your passion and support. I can't wait to put on the greatest all-time show in the octagon." So he's still talking about putting on a show. But today's speculation is that he's possibly injured. Don't know this to be a fact, but they're saying McGregor is possibly injured.
Oh!
That would be terrible, man. That would absolutely be terrible for McGregor.
McGregor's in serious trouble.
Yeah, it would be trouble for him, man. It would just be bad timing. See, the thing that everyone's getting crazy about is they've already sold like $20 million worth of tickets or something along those lines. I saw the $20 million number thrown out. I believe it's for ticket sales. I could be wrong on that. But it's already trending very high, right? Among all-time pay-per-view events, it's already trending really high. So the last thing the UFC wants to do is have to change opponents. You got to have McGregor at UFC 303. That's the bottom line. So McGregor's not giving us any, angle here to really talk about or go with. So everything we're saying and talking about is really speculation, what people are saying, right? And we covered these yesterday. There's multiple things or reasons that could have caused the cancellation of the press conference, or it could have just been exactly what they're saying. Obstacles outside of our control, logistics, flying people in, getting everyone there, getting all the equipment set up. I mean, this can all happen, no problem. But there has to be, obviously there's a reason that this thing was canceled, right? So it's leading to a lot of speculation as to what caused this cancellation. Are they going to still do it before the fight? Well, now how do you do that? Because time is running out, right? There's a lot of things at play here, and they got to start making moves real quick. But the fact they canceled yesterday's press conference has people going all over the place. We said yesterday about the potential failed drug test. Again, no one knows any of this for sure. They keep this stuff hush hush. But these are things that people are topics that people are bringing up as possibilities, and it's going to be this way until we know as a fact what is actually happening. And maybe they never really go into more detail, right? We just hopefully we get the fight that we're all hoping to get, because that's a big deal. And Michael Chandler is coming ready. And it does feel like McGregor didn't really want this fight, but he's kind of locked into it. It's kind of a weird thing. But it's been made to appear that way before, and then the documentary comes out and you see behind the scenes that after the Cerrone fight, McGregor wants to fight right now. So, who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Now, as we move forward, the UFC rankings are out, and not much has changed. The main thing, Paulo Costa slips to number 8, okay? But it brings up all types of discussions here in the UFC middleweight rankings, especially. As you see there, these are the top 5, right? Dricus is his champion. Then number 1, you got Sean Strickland. Number 2, Adesanya. 3, Robert Whittaker. 4, Jared Cannonier. Those two guys fighting over the next few weeks, trying to maintain their spot, right? So you're either going to get a much more strengthened middleweight division if all these guys continue to win, right? Or you're going to get some new guys in there like a Mayvolv and Khamzat Chimaev. But that top 4, well, removing Dricus from the equation, but just looking at the contenders, that top 4 is going to be very solidified here very soon. And I think Marvin Vettori fades away or goes down. I think Whittaker and Cannonier, obviously, if they lose, they're going down. But we're going to know from 1 to 4 who it is. And I think this is why the UFC hasn't done anything yet with Dricus du Plessis, the current champ. They have a big opportunity to set up a big fight without him and Adesanya, but Sean Strickland only lost by a split decision. So maybe Sean Strickland gets the next fight. Maybe Adesanya's not down to fight right away. We just don't know. And until we get something official, this division is wide open. But the fact that Sean Strickland won means that even if Khamzat wins, he's not getting a title shot. Did you guys hear what I said? Even if Khamzat Chimaev wins, he's not getting a title shot. They're not going to let that happen. They're just not going to let it happen. So now you need Khamzat to win. If you're a Khamzat fan like myself and others out there, a lot of us out there, you need Khamzat to win. And, you know, if Cannonier beats Mavov and Khamzat wins, Khamzat's likely to be number 4, not number 3. Right? So now he's going to have to fight an Adesanya or Cannonier. And even if he fights Cannonier, does that do enough? He could have fought, instead of doing all this, he could have just fought Cannonier a while ago. Because Cannonier was calling for that fight. Who knows how serious that was. But he could have fought Cannonier a while ago. So you have all this jumping off in the middleweight division. And it's quickly rising to the top of the list as far as best divisions. I mean, the lightweight division is up there right now. But now with Islam kind of clearing it out, Arman Sarukian number 1, then you got Poirier and Gaethje who are coming off losses. That division is quickly starting to tumble in terms of depth, right? Because if the champion is so dominant, that weakens the outlook of the division, at least in how I feel. So that's what's going on there right now, is the division is looking weaker and weaker as time goes forward. So we'll have to wait and see. Khamzat versus Robert Whittaker is going to be an absolute blast in Saudi Arabia. And man, what will it be like if Khamzat can go in there and just finish Robert Whittaker early in that fight? Let's make it tough on the UFC. Khamzat, let's get a big win. Okay? So everyone can start calling for a title shot. Or at least you get someone that was a former champ like an Adesanya. We don't need Jared Cannonier. We don't need any of these other guys. We need a quick victory and looking upward at the top. And let's make it happen by year's end. I don't see that happening. We've said this every year, like this is the year that Khamzat gets a title. No, man, the time is just, I mean, we're halfway through the year just about now, and he hasn't even fought yet. So, you know, if you think he's fighting anytime soon, you might as well forget about it. It's not happening. Now, as we march forward, Dana White teases UFC are working on a BMF title fight for Max Holloway. Now, the BMF belt, to me, was all but gone. The time has passed until Max Holloway KO'd Justin Gaethje with 1 second left. That kept the belt alive for now. And, well, first, what Dana White's saying is, you know, as he said in the press conference the other day, is, or he told reporters, we're working on the BMF title right now. Before being asked if Ilia Topuria irritated him by talking about overlooking Max Holloway unless the BMF title was also put up for grabs alongside his featherweight strap. Okay, so that brings up a good point. We'll get back to it. No, it doesn't rub me the wrong way, says Dana White. I love that people love that belt and want to fight for it. I love it. Next BMF title fight for Max Holloway is in the works, more or less, paraphrasing the end. So, who would he fight? We don't know. But here's what I do know is, and I'm going to process this as I say it. If they put the BMF belt up for grabs against a guy like Topuria or a champion, whoever wins gets the championship belt, like, you know, featherweight champ, and the BMF belt, which now renders the BMF belt meaningless. Okay? Because now it's the same as a champion belt, right? Unless or until it would then force the BMF belt to be put up for grabs, like, say, like a guy like Islam Makhachev got it. Okay? Someone beats him, they get it. Islam Makhachev wins, he keeps it, he keeps defending the lightweight belt, he keeps it, or Ilia Topuria, whoever. Then that guy or that fighter moves up to the next division. So now you got Islam Makhachev versus Leon Edwards, for example. then the BMF belt is up for grabs there. So, but now you're locked in to certain situations where the BMF belt is relevant outside of a title. So your options become limited. So I don't see that happening. And the UFC's in a tricky point now where the BMF title, BMF belt holder, okay, is not Nate Diaz or Jorge Masvidal or whoever, is not really in the championship or title rankings. The belt has worked its way all the way back up toward the title like a regular champion. And now the UFC's got a top contender with the BMF belt. Now what are we going to do here? Right? Maybe you get a Conor McGregor type fight for the BMF. Maybe they do put it against Ilia Topuria, which I highly doubt. Could Dustin Poirier stick around and take that fight? One last fight? Did he market himself by saying that he's pretty much retired, but not really, right? Maybe he marketed himself for one more big fight. So you got all these possibilities going on, man. And again, as always, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But we do know the BMF belt is going to be up for grabs. And I think people care again, man. Unfortunately, people care because Max Holloway, the way he won, you got to give it some credibility. I see King Tersey in the chat room. I see Mr. Softy MMA. Conor could be injured, maybe. Yeah. I love it, Mr. Softy MMA. Like, could be, maybe, in the same sentence. Total speculation we got all around the globe right now over what's going on with McGregor. King Tersey says, yo, what's going on with McGregor, man? Any news? Conor posted on Instagram, too. I did not see that one. See, I got to get caught up. I'm not on the social media enough, man. I just don't have time. This is where I don't have time for it. This is where y'all got to help me out, right? This is why I like the chat. Y'all got to keep me updated. You're asking me if I know anything. I'm asking you if you know anything. Nobody knows anything about what's going on with McGregor. Werewolf MMA. What fights could they even add? Would they make Yuri versus Alex? Maybe. Maybe. But I think Alex is looking up to heavyweight now. I think he's dead serious. But the conversation has kind of calmed down because John Jones wants to fight Stipe, which is just crazy. He's just doing what he did in the light heavyweight division by just delaying these fights, you know, and holding up the belt. But he can do that. Another one waiting in the chat room. Chandler has to fight if Conor is injured. Can't keep waiting. Yeah, I mean, they're going to put someone else in there against Chandler. And if they do that, then they're going to have to come up with a big title fight situation or a big fight on very short notice. I mean, this pay-per-view is not next month. This pay-per-view is like now. UFC 303 is in the same month. Like, if McGregor were to be injured, again, we don't know. No one knows. So you're asking me for news. I'm giving you, the news I know, which is absolutely nothing. What up, Bruner? I see you in there. What's up, man? What's up? But yeah, when it comes to McGregor, we don't know. But if McGregor can't go for some reason, which I hope he goes, but if he can't, they got to do something with Michael Chandler right now, and they got to announce another fight immediately. They got to announce another fight immediately, and maybe that's why no one knows what's going on. Maybe that's why there's going to be a 24 to 72 hour window here, 1 to 3 days, where everyone's speculating and no one knows. Because before McGregor can come out and say, hey, I'm out, and everyone starts saying, hey, I want my money back, that something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. So, there's probably a lot going on the inside. King Tersey. It's just insane that we don't know what's going on. I know. And it's a big deal to cancel the press conference in Ireland, where McGregor's from. McGregor wants that. The way McGregor rolls, he wants that press conference. Something is going on. We just don't know what it is. There's no way it could just be something small, right? It's got to be something big, because don't just tell me that it didn't work out and all this or whatever, what they're saying. We got to know what's going on, and we don't. We have no idea. And if I'm a ticket holder right now, I'm freaking out, which I'm not. Terzi said, yeah, this is like UFC 300 all over again. They would need something like Alex versus Yuri 2, which wouldn't be a bad bet because Yuri's going to be much better than his first fight with Pereira, right? Yuri's going to be much better than his first fight after coming back from the injury. He's already better. Now he's just going to go to another level, higher and higher, and that's going to be an ultimate matchup eventually. Nunes versus Harrison, BMF. Yeah. Chandler versus Holloway. I thought of that. Diaz versus Jorge too. Yeah, because wouldn't that be funny if they, because they pushed back the boxing, didn't they? Or no, that was Tyson. But I know something happened with Diaz and Masvidal. What if they just said, hey, forget the boxing, we're going to double the pay, and we need you at UFC 303 to save this thing? Very possible. Listen, all these things are possibilities. And we can speculate, and then tomorrow we'll find out it was all for nothing. But, it's fun. Bruner says, I'm not worried about 303. We got Aliskerov next week in the fight night co-main. Then we got Khamzat the week after. 303 small potatoes. Yeah. Yep. But as long as they have these pay-per-view events, the pay-per-view event is huge because you're talking about selling pay-per-views and ticket prices going up in attendance, right? And that's why the UFC 303 thing is such a big deal, is if a lot of people have paid money because McGregor's fighting. And that's a very crazy thing if something were to happen, right? There is still a chance Conor is fighting maybe something family related based on his Instagram post. See, I didn't see the Instagram post, so you're going to have to elaborate on that. I'd really like to know what he said. Rather now than before the podcast is over and I go look it up. But yeah, man. And if it's family related, that would lead back. Maybe that's why Daniel Cormier said what he said. He read into it a little bit, right? That there may be a lack of motivation for Conor McGregor. So I'm curious in all these things, and I want to know if he's fighting. Back to Khamzat for a minute. I'm very excited Khamzat's fighting. It's just that, and it's scary, but I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that he's already won. It's now on to who the next opponent is. And it comes down to how Khamzat wins, right? And I know a lot of people disagree with that because you still got these diehard Whittaker fans. People thought Diaz was going to beat Khamzat. Diaz would have been in some serious trouble against Khamzat, because Khamzat would have just, I think, even abandoned the takedown game and just went straight 2 minutes or less KO on him. I was kind of happy for Nate Diaz that fight didn't happen. It bought him some time. Conor posted with his kid and wife saying, "Thank you, God." Okay. So I see what you're saying. Cryptic. Yeah. But he always, even when McGregor's at his craziest, it always seems like he knows what he's doing. He's one step ahead of all of us. And maybe I'm getting a little crazy on that, but it just seems like McGregor already knows that everyone's freaking out, and then throws out a cryptic Instagram message, just gives you just enough but not enough, and then we're all speculating, right? And he knows it and loves it. And probably any one of us in that situation would be doing the same thing. All this stuff, everything that surrounding McGregor, like a Trump, really, is like anything that happens just makes the event bigger. Like even when it's bad news, it's like great news. Because the media is going to be all over it and the speculation is going to run rampant. No doubt about it. Mr. Softy's back. That's so true. Conor is always a step ahead of us. So I wonder what it could mean. I know. And I think he wants us to wonder what it means. Like he knows that we're trying to figure stuff out, and he's giving us just a taste of everything. He reads the blogs and news. He knows what's going on. He's well aware. He's probably, quite honestly, just training for the fight while we all flip out about the press conference. He's probably just doing his normal thing. Could Chandler be the one who's hurt or injured? Or is this all Conor? Contract negotiations stall? See, and if it's contract negotiations, as I said yesterday, I'm not worried about that at all. They'll get that handled. I really believe it. Not a problem. McGregor, what do you need? Okay, no problem. That should be how simple, unless he's gone off his rocker, which I doubt. So that can be fixed within 1 to 3 days. Anything else, an injury, can't be fixed, but they would also not let us know for 2 or 3 days because they can't just say McGregor's injured, he's out, and let us all start freaking. They'd have to say he's injured. It's going to be Alex versus Yuri 2, or it's going to be that. It's got to be like simultaneous, if that's the case. So all this stuff, it leads into the timeline that it's possible as to why we've heard nothing. Conor has them by the you know what with the contract now, so this would be the time to be like, Dana, now you have to pay me to save this event. I don't think McGregor would do that to Dana White simply because Dana worked with him on the fight with Floyd Mayweather, which was the beginning of the change in McGregor's life. I mean, you could say, yeah, the company he has and these other things, yeah, obviously. But when he got that Mayweather fight for that kind of ridiculous money, that put him in a whole new level. And then the stuff he did with the company, that raised it even further. So, like, I don't think he's going to do that to Dana White when he's already paid. But, you know, when you watch a Netflix special, Forever McGregor, you do see that McGregor does not like sitting on the sidelines. You see, he's presented in the media as, oh, he don't want to fight, and, you know, this, that, and the other. And then I carry on sometimes thinking the same thing, like I am right now. Fact is, he does want to fight. We've seen it behind the closed doors. When the documentary came out, we know he wants to fight. Absolutely wants to fight. So it might be, I don't think it's as much about money as it is like we need to get organized as far as going forward. I want to fight every 6 months. Or I want not 3 fights in infinite time. I want 3 fights over the next 12 months for this much money. Something like that. And that could cause the UFC to say, well, we haven't done that like that before. And we got to figure this thing out. So, you know, that could be very well what's happening is the contract negotiations have always made the most sense for me, or it's just something minor with the logistics of having the press conference. They just decided we're not going to do it. The only problem is you sold tickets. So that's a little wrench right there. Okay. But the contract negotiations make the most sense for me. We really don't know. What about this judging situation with the UFC? Something has to be done. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy, Bruner, at UFC 302. You know this as good as I do. You had 2 fights, split decisions, which is the only way this can happen, so it had to be a split decision, where 2 judges went rightfully with the person who, not even close, like dominated the fight, right? Sean Strickland was one, and then there was another one earlier, and I can't remember exactly who it was right this second, okay? So Sean Strickland wins 50-45, 49-46, totally dominated the fight. Then you get a third judge who went the other way, 49-46 for Costa. And Strickland turns around and looks at Buffer like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? The commentators are like, what are you talking about? Everybody's like, what are you talking about? You know, and again, what I've said from the beginning when I started following MMA is I want to live to the day where this sport becomes like every other sport, okay? And you have a final score at the end of the fight, all right? I hate when a guy dominates in significant strikes like 150-90 and loses the fight because he lost 2 close rounds and then, like, you know, maybe he came out in the first round and dominated like 60-2, went crazy. The other fighter comes back and wins like 50-45 in significant strikes the next 2 rounds. So it's very, very close, but in the overall picture, the other guy won, right? I want points, man. I want, like, you know, a point for every 10 seconds of control time. So many points for a takedown. Significant strikes are this much. Head strikes give you a bonus of this much. And you're just watching this score move up, man. You're watching this score move up, and the clock tick down. And it's like 190-180 with 20 seconds left. And this guy needs to get 3 big punches in or needs to finish strong. And these guys are wailing at the end because the points are going up and no one knows. And the clock ticks down to 0. And it's 200-98. This guy beat this guy. Like, that is what we all want to see. And they keep talking about open scoring and seeing seeing the judges' scorecards don't change the end result. Everybody gets so upset with that, like the fighters don't know, and they don't. Man, they're fighting. These guys are getting demolished and still think they're in the fight, and you don't see them finish strong. If you can look up and clearly see, like, man, I got my butt whooped in the first round, but I can still come back, okay, in the points over time and still win this fight. Or if I dominated the first round, I'm way up in points, okay? I need to keep my eye on those points. I just want to see a point system in the UFC. So, Bruno, you brought up a good one. To me, I need a point system. I know everyone's calling for open scoring. We have to start incentivizing finishes. We have to start looking at judges as a field goal kicker in football. And I think we do. I think we do because some, listen, I grew up a Florida State fan, okay? And I know exactly what you mean about the field goal kicker because I sat through about 4 or 5 times when Florida State went wide right or wide left or whatever against Miami. In fact, one time I paid like $2,000 while I was in college, probably all the student loans I had at the time, and flew down to Miami for Florida State, Miami, and Florida State's winning the whole game. They end up going down by like 2 at the end, drive down the whole field, line up the field goal, multiple timeouts. It's great. And I'm on the side of the field goal, so I can't judge left and right. The field goal was blasted through the upright, only to find out it was wide right. So I'm jumping up and down like it's good, and the whole stadium in Miami at the time at the Orange Bowl started going crazy. And I just couldn't believe it, man. I couldn't believe they missed that. And I paid the money to watch that happen. So, yeah. So I understand you're at a big MMA fight, your guys fighting, whatever. You see him dominate. Okay, to me, this happened to Angela Hill twice. You see him dominate, and bam, the judges go the other way, and it's like, yo, what's going on? I mean, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. MMA saying that will be a cool scoring system. Yeah, and I don't know how we do it, and it wouldn't be perfect either way. Because if you get too many points for control time, then you're going to have opponents. You are going to have the negative side of that is you are going to have a guy look up and say, hey, I'm up by 20 points. Let me go ahead and get a takedown and hold this guy down for 2 minutes. But to me, that's nothing different than running the ball in football. And you're pissed because your team can't stop them from running and the clock trickles down and you never get the ball back. So that's just part of the game. I'm not going to be mad if a guy's up and controls his opponent and takes him down. Okay? But we are going to get those situations where both guys know, like, the corner's going to be yelling, hey, you're down 10, 30 seconds to go. And you're going to see these guys just, going crazy. Like, every fight's going to have a bigger and bigger climax towards as the clock gets closer to 0. Like, as that clock, just like any other sport, right? Just like when you're watching football or basketball, and as the clock trickles down, you're getting more and more nervous. This happened to me the other night. I'm a huge Florida Panthers fan. We never won the Stanley Cup. I probably don't watch no hockey games during the year, but I've always been a big Florida Panthers fan. We're at the height right now. We got a chance to win. And the other night against the Rangers, that final minute, man, that clock is ticking. We're up 2-1. My heart is pounding. Because we could still give up a goal, go to overtime, and lose. There's been 3 games that went to overtime. It's not a given that we're going to win this thing. But as the clock's getting closer to 0, the crowd's going more and more crazy. Everyone's tensing up. And what do the Florida Panthers do? They get the puck in the corner, and they hold it there for 5 seconds, and the Rangers can't get it, and that clock trickles down. That is part of the game. Just like running the football. Just like having it. That's why they get fouled in basketball, because they're trying to run out the clock. This is going to happen in MMA. But we need a point scoring system. I'm never going. I don't care about open scoring. I don't care to see what the same judges crazy. What happened in the Sean Strickland fight is you're going to be looking up and saying, why do these 2 judges have Sean Strickland way ahead? This judge has Paulo Costa way ahead. It doesn't matter. Strickland still got the fight won. The outcome does not change. A point scoring system changes everything, but you know what? The UFC might never do it, or MMA as a whole. It's not UFC. It's, the commissions probably will never do it because they love that drama at the end where both guys come together and it's like, and new, or, and still, which we would still hear that, but we wouldn't have, that feeling of when a guy wins a decision and you don't know who's going to win and they say, and new, and everyone goes crazy. You would no longer have that because we would know the outcome, but dang it, I think we'd all give up that little spot, one out of every 100, 200 fights, to be able to watch that clock trickle down on the other 99 fights and be excited because we don't know how it's going to finish. And both fighters can look at the score and know, just like in any other game on earth, and know, like, dang it, man, we need to stop. We got to stop this 3rd down and 3. They're about to run the ball. We need to stop it, or else we're not getting the ball back and this game is over. They're going to melt the clock. Like, you know, all that drama is bigger than the final decision, which a lot of times leaves us mad and, you know, upset about making changes. So we'll have to wait and see. MMA Softy, or Mr. Softy MMA says, we just need this Conor fight to happen. It makes every fight around so much bigger. It does. It does. Absolutely. Even I can't wait for the Ian Gary fight on that card too. Can't wait for Khamzat and UFC Saudi Arabia. I cannot wait for all these fights coming. The middleweight division is on the rise right now. Oh my goodness. Ariel tweeting like it's still happening, but I don't know. The athletic commissions are the biggest problem with the sport. Yeah, and it's because they're trying to keep it tied with boxing, right? 10 rounds, you got judges, okay. You know, more than likely they're usually going to get it right in 10 to 12 rounds. Three rounds, dude, you're putting a lot of weight round by round, okay? Round by round, you're putting too much weight. If I go out there and crush you in the first round and I'm up 60-10 in significant strikes, you got to do a lot of coming back. That's like being down 28-0 at halftime in football. There's going to have to be a miracle in the next 2 rounds for you to win this fight. You don't just get to lay on a guy for 3 minutes and win 2 close rounds, even though you got dominated in strikes, and win the fight. Like, there's got to be, something's got to happen here. And it also puts pressure on these guys that when they're getting dominated on the feet to just be able to go in and get a takedown and hold their opponent down. You can still win that way because you're going to build up time, you know, but the striking has to be a bigger part. It just has to be. They're also the reason for the nonsense weight cutting system. Yeah. I mean, you just got a lot of factors here that could be changed and should be changed. But listen, man, I'm just being real with y'all. I got to get to a baseball game. The young ones are playing in a baseball game. First year playing baseball. Second at bat, gets pegged with the ball. And I'm sitting there like, we're going to find out if he wants to play baseball right now. Well, he's still playing, and we got a game tonight. I'm going to be late. Sad to break this MMA news to you, man. Khamzat Chimaev, Conor McGregor, Islam versus Saruki, and that's got to be coming up. We'll save that for tomorrow. But yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. This your boy Chris Cross. This is the TCMMA podcast. Hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always, peace.